Well, hello, friends, and welcome to Boston.com's Cocktail Club. I'm Jackson Cannon, and in a moment, I'll be joined by Ashley Sullivan, bar manager of Salt, Raw Bar, and Restaurant in Plymouth, Massachusetts. Tonight, we're making cocktails with Pisco, that enchanting Peruvian brandy, catching up about the local bar and restaurant scene, and of course, we're sharing some tips the pros use to make great drinks at home. When you registered, if you clicked through to Gordon's Wine and Spirits and purchased the Pisco cocktail kit, then you have all the ingredients you need. Profits from these kits go to Off Their Plate. This is a great charity that buys meals from restaurants that need the business and distributes them to frontline workers and others in need. First, I'm going to go through everything you need for this session, and all the while, of course, we're taking your questions from the chat. For this one, you're going to need a bottle of Pisco. I've got this nice La Caravera, Bar Sol, Encanto, Machu Pisco, all favorites of ours. For these kind of straight ahead cocktails, you're looking for a Quebranta, but we'll get a little bit more into grapes that go into Pisco and what that means later. For the El Capitan, you'll need your favorite red vermouth and some aromatic bitters like Angostura. Garnish for that one, I like a cherry in this Manhattan variation. A little bit of orange twist. So if you do like an orange twist on your whiskey drinks, maybe have an orange handy. And the real extra credit off the wall optional garnish, if you have some green olives around, maybe on your second one, give that a try. It's less wacky than it sounds. For the second drink, we'll be making the classic and world famous Pisco Sour. Besides your Pisco for that one, you just need lemon juice, some simple syrup, and again, that aromatic bitters like an Angostura to garnish with. Just regular cubed ice to shake with. And for glassware, I'm going to use a nice little Nick and Nora. Use your favorite cocktail glass, however you like to enjoy your stirred drinks for the El Capitan. And I'm going to get a good chill on both my glasses. I'm going to use a simple rocks glass or old-fashioned glass for my sour. I'm not going to serve that drink on the rocks. All the more important that I want to get a little chill on that glass. And if you have like a large, festive, elegant coupe, that also works really well for that drink. I didn't mention you need an egg. So grab an egg from the kitchen. We're going to use an egg white in that Pisco Sour. Other equipment you'll need, a strong shaker. I'm going to use a tin on tin. If you don't have that, get a deli cup or a mason jar, something with a very firm lid, because you don't want that egg drink flying all over the place. And I'm going to stir my first drink in a mixing glass. You can use any kind of tin or other vessel to do your stirred drink in. Something to measure with. We always talk about these barroom triggers we use. Great for building drinks in round. Lots of different measures present. 2 ounces over 1, 3/4 there under a half. And with little notches in between, we can make all the different drinks we need to make fast. Lots of different ones, kind of all at the same time, mounting them in rounds. For our purposes here, we're going 1 drink at a time. So if you don't have a jigger, tablespoon is really, really great unit of measure. Remember, it's our mantra, tablespoon's half an ounce. So a 1.5 ounce pour is just 3 tablespoons. It's very accurate, just not quite as fast in the bar, which is why we use jiggers. I don't know what else you need. You won't need your cutting board, but I've kind of kept mine on my station, sort of holding the various things that I'm using kind of nicely. For my lemon juice, I went ahead and juiced ahead. We're not doing anything else with the side of the lemon on this one. So if you like to work ahead, go ahead and do that. And I'll try a little technical difficulty. I'll try turning my video on and then off again. Is that better, team? All righty. The chat seems to be saying that, yes, we're here. Well, hopefully you got all of that. Someone said they could see me fine the whole time. So anyway, I'll get a little bit more into it before we go, but we are taking next week off. I want everybody to know that in case you end up sliding out of the session once 2 drinks are made. We won't be here next week, but we'll have our summer schedule out soon. All right, Ashley Sullivan, 3-time repeat guest here on Cocktail Club, has been working in the hospitality business since she was 16. After a few years off to start a family, she jumped back in on the opening team of Salt, a family-owned raw bar and fine cuisine restaurant in Plymouth, Massachusetts. She's bar manager at Salt and a town meeting member for Plymouth on the Energy Committee, as well as a member of the Restaurant Sustainability Group. During the initial lockdowns due to the COVID-19 closures, she would post on Twitter asking people what they had on hand to help them create great drinks at home. That so embodies her drive and dedication to sustainable cocktails at home and at the bar. If you'd like to support her directly, please hit her up. Her tip jar is her Venmo is at Ashley Sarandagai. She is a thoughtful and skilled bartender and a Pisco enthusiast. Welcome back, Ashley.
Thanks for having me back, Jackson.
So good to see you. How are things going down in Plymouth?
It's going really well. Things are starting to pick up with the restrictions lifted and people being able to come back to the bars. It's been really nice to have people sitting with me. And we're just gearing up for a really busy summer.
Yeah, I can't wait to come down and visit. It sounds great. Hey, for those who don't know, tell us just a little bit more about Salt Raw Bar and the
So
restaurant.
we're an American restaurant. We have lots of raw bar options, Peruvian inspired food as well. Great cocktail list, great sakis. It's a nice spot right downtown. We have some beautiful patios to sit on, enjoying a drink in the sun.
Any tips for parking down there when it's busy?
Just find what you can, really. It's pretty dog eat dog out there.
Yeah, well, that's good to see too. It's funny, I find myself sitting in traffic jam, just kind of smiling, like, oh, this is nice.
Right?
We're all out together again. Hey, I'm getting a little thirsty. Shall we stir up a cocktail and keep
Absolutely.
the conversation going?
Cool.
All right, I'm gonna do this, but maybe we should, yeah. So we're gonna do the El Capitan. This is so clearly a Manhattan variation. We don't really know where it was first mixed, so that gives rise to lots of really weird stories. But clearly, this looks a lot like a Manhattan. So I'm gonna use a lot of the same things. I like mine a little wet, so I like this drink 50-50. So I'm gonna use 1.5 ounces of this Quebranta Pisco, and we'll talk a little bit more about the grapes, but we're going to use a term called non-aromatic, but you'll see when you open your Quebranta that it is pungent and flavorful and really quite floral and very aromatic. Small A. And then I'm going to go equal portion, another 1.5 ounces of Italian vermouth, sweet vermouth, red vermouth, whatever you like to call it. And I'm going to use my Angostura bitters. I really like the kind of rich cinnamon flavors in Angostura for this. I don't feel like I can go too heavy. This is a relatively new bottle, so it's a little tight. So I'm really trying to get 2 good dashes, but it takes me 4 shots on a new bottle to do that. And then I'm going to get some ice in there. And give it a slow, steady swirl. And you can kind of see that I'm not smashing the ice around. It's all kind of staying together. And get all these ingredients fused and diluted and properly chilled. Oh, it's mesmerizing, isn't it? I just got in a little trance right there. So Pisco is Peruvian. I know the Chileans make great Pisco too. I'm a big fan of the Peruvian style. We are going to talk a little bit about the grapes that the Spanish brought over for that, but I just want to get us a drink in hand, get this out of the glass. So I'm dumping out my chilled ice cubes for chilling there. Elegantly pouring this. My
So you're doing garnish?
So here's the thing. I like a cherry when I'm done. Okay. So I'm just going to drop one in and have it go swimming and let it give off a tiny bit of its sweetness and pick up a lot of that flavor. It's just very, for me, it's like the last bite. but I love a little orange twist over here too. So I'm also gonna spritz and discard. And then the really weird thing to do with this one, if you like this drink, after you've had it a couple times, try a salty olive in place of a cherry sometime, and you'll be surprised. It's yeah, it's really, sometimes we think those things don't go so well together, something salty, savory, and something kind of sweet and aromatic, but they do. All right, here we go. Cheers to you.
Cheers. That's beautiful.
That is just lovely. Very reminiscent to me of a Corpse Survivor #1.
Mm.
Is a, you know, that Calvados and apple brandy, and it brings to mind. Bill asked the question, what brandies could we substitute in these cocktails? And you know, I do think of sometimes Calvados would be kind of an amazing thing. It's more of an apple brandy, but it's an apple brandy, but it's definitely like could be fun to substitute in place of Pisco. Do you have any other thoughts on that?
I was thinking maybe like a Benedictine or something like that.
That's but I do because of all the kind of.
That sounds delicious. I'm gonna have to try that.
Yeah, this and also I would play with like drinks that split base another brandy in, kind of to flip this around for Maya, who's asking us what to do now that she has a bottle, one each of what we're using. She has the Bartol that you have and the La Caravata here. I would say look at other brandy recipes and cut Pisco in on that action. So I'm definitely trying a Corpse after seeing this flavor profile so matched up. It's making me think I'll try it in a Corpse Survivor #1 sometime soon.
A Pisco is actually really good as well.
Say again?
A Pisco Punch.
That is a great drink. Tell everybody how you go about making Pisco Punch.
So I would do 2 ounces of Pisco. I would do a ½ ounce of lemon, 3/4 of a pineapple syrup, which is easy. You just mix the sugar and some pineapple juice. Do 3/4 of simple, maybe a couple of dashes of orange bitters, shake it up.
That reminds me kind of I think the Columbia Room did a version of Pisco Punch where they fine chopped the pineapple and infused it into the Pisco, because that goes on a lot in Peru. And I think that might have been one of the early versions. I mean, Pisco Punch, that's a golden age cocktail. People don't think of it, but Lima was there as sort of this waypoint before the Panama Canal between the East and West Coast of the United States. So there was all this trade that happened and people that stopped and stayed and moved on. And San Francisco was a huge Pisco market in the late 19th century. And so that drink was invented there. The Pisco Sour was invented in Lima by an American who moved there, stayed, and opened a bar, Victor Morris. I think that could be where this drink is from. Nobody knows where the El Capitan was first mixed, or it could definitely been in New York. If it was mixed in New York, I think it might have gotten a city name to be like, to show that it was a riff off of a Manhattan. So, but we'll never know. So you can make up whatever story you like on that one.
That's the cocktail folklores, is all these stories and the origin stories of these different cocktails that you hear about.
Yeah, if you're a stickler for facts, or if you're a lover of tall tales, you know you're in for a ride every time you hear according to legend.
Exactly.
You know. Quickly, I wanted to say that Pisco's history is of Spanish origin in the New World. So grapes are brought over to make wine, and the non-aromatic varietals of Quebranta, which we're using today, Negra, Criolla, Uvina, and Molar, and then the aromatic varietals. And these are a lot of fun. When you see these on bottles, you know you're in for kind of like special other interesting sipping Piscos, perhaps. The Moscatel, Torrentel, Italia, and Albilla, which I think is related to modern day Albarino. The grapes didn't make great wine in the climate right away in Peru, especially. And so kind of distillation took over as the primary. And Quebranta is kind of the king of those grapes. You know a little bit about Quebranta, Ashley. What's important to remember about it?
So these are the most common grapes that are used in Piscos. And what's really cool about them is that these grapes are indigenous to Peru. And the flavor profiling is really cool and very versatile. So you'll get like some banana, you'll get dried grass, you'll get orange peel. And with this bottle in particular, I definitely do get like almost this chocolatey aftertaste, which is really nice.
Right. Yeah, that's a fun one. I think two other brands that we're not showing that to answer the question I've gotten a couple times about Pisco brands. The two others that I like are Machu Pisco by Melanie Asher and her La Diablada, which is kind of even more rare. And then Encanto, which is also kind of a Pisco imported through a bartender's love of great drinks. Do you have any other brands that you've used all those, right?
I have. This is my first time using the Bar Sol, the Quebranta, and I'm really loving this one right now. I just sipped on it earlier straight just to get the flavor profile of it, and it's really nice, like super smooth.
Well, for the nerds out there, one of the things besides its authenticity that we love about Peruvian Pisco is the rigorous way that it's legislated that it must be made. It all must be distilled to proof, and that means when they're making that cut between the head and the tails to grab the heart of that distillate, they have to distill it down to exactly the proof that they bottle at, which means they don't know when that's going to happen. They don't know how much tail they're going to get. And it's such an art, right? To get in and get out, not knowing really where that out point is without any of those really crazy tar-like off-putting tail flavors. And they do it. It's something to behold. And then in Peru also, they can't age in wood. So all of these flavors are derived from that, deft distillation and an aging in either clay or mostly neutral food grade plastic or metal or clay. So quick aside, how long can you save an open bottle of vermouth? This is an argument about how many angels are on the head of a pin. Don't save it, drink it. But what are your thoughts about an open bottle of vermouth in the fridge?
I would say it can last up to like 6 months is what I've used, but I would definitely say please chill your vermouth. I see so many people with their vermouths just hanging out. You really need to chill them.
Keeping it cold slows down any of that additional oxidation that happens to them. This is kind of a trick. I didn't put it into this small bottle to hide the brand. This is Cinzano. I love it. I use it. I had a big bottle and I got down kind of low and I knew it was going to be a while till I drank it again. I just transferred it into this smaller bottle so there'd be no air in there.
Exactly.
You can use wine evacuators to do that same trick.
That's why I got this small bottle of Antica, because usually, at my bar, it's the very large one and I'm not making Manhattans every night. So this one will go a long way.
Well, I'd like to ask this question of you right now that came in early from one of our repeat guests, and they want to know what they as a guest can do to encourage restaurants and bars to be more sustainable. And they know that's not really a drink making at home thing, but they'd really like to get your thoughts on that.
Oh, I love that question because that is something that is very important to me, especially living on a coastal town where there's lots of plastic that's being blown into the ocean off of patios, whether it be straws or the straw wrappers. I would say if you're not one to use a straw in a restaurant, just say when you're ordering your drink, I would not like a straw, or you don't want any cut fruit on it. If you're ordering takeout, if you have silverware at home, I would say I don't need any of the plastic cutlery. A little bit goes a long way. And if you're cognizant about that, it can be very helpful.
Well, I bet that's a habit too. The more you start to do it, the more reflexive it can become,
Absolutely.
So well, that's awesome. Well, I would love to sit and linger over this drink all day, and I might get back to it, but I would also like to see and follow along while you show us this amazing Pisco Sour. And I have to answer one of the advanced questions now. No, the Chileans did not invent the Pisco Sour. Victor Morris did. It's a version of a whiskey sour, and we're going to show you how it's done.
Great. All right, so first you are going to start with 1.5 ounces of Pisco. Then you're going to go on to 3/4 of lemon juice, and I pre-juiced mine because it tends to get messy if I do it on hand. 3/4 of an ounce of simple syrup.
Don't wait for me. I'll catch up.
All right. And now the fun part. Let's see how I do. You're going to do an egg white.
So sometimes I do the egg white first so that I don't have this pressure, but now I like having the pressure. So see, she's cutting it. I'm following along.
Fine art. If you don't know how to do it, you just kind of crack the egg and move the yolk from side to side to get all the whites out. And then you can discard that.
You can, yeah, I'm actually, I set myself up. I've got a little cup. I'm gonna keep that. I'm gonna cook that in something tonight.
Now is a very vigorous dry shake.
All right, everybody. Yeah, right. See that? She didn't do ice. We gotta get this egg white fluffed.
And now you're gonna add ice to chill your cocktail. And give it another good shake. Then you get your glass out. I'm gonna do mine in a nice large coupe.
If you're not using an egg white, yeah, shake with ice. Shake it real vigorously. You can do this one without egg white if you don't have a, if you have a reason. And then notice we didn't use a tea strainer, but we're throttling really carefully with our hawthorn. We don't want to get any broken ice in here, but we don't want to leave any of that meringue behind. So
No.
and this drink benefits from just like a momentary sit here. So Ashley, why don't you talk us through how we're going to do the garnish before we do it?
This is the fun part. So I know that some of you have these really small bottles of the Angostura bitters, so you probably will be able to put a few individual drops on it. I, however, have a bigger one, or if you're someone who thinks you might not be able to do it, what I'm doing right now is just putting some bitters into a little shot glass. And then I'm going to take a straw.
Oh, the old straw test. That's great.
Your finger on top to create a vacuum. And then you just put your little dots of bitters on the top.
Oh, that looks great. So I'm trying it without that tool. And I'm okay if there's a little bit of variation to that.
And then sometimes you can use a toothpick. I'm using a chopstick because some people don't have toothpicks at home, and just drawing a little line, kind of connecting all three.
This is the really hard thing to see, but I'm going to go around through my dots, kind of like a barista does, right?
Let me
Creating
see.
a little flower. There it is. Oh, those are lovely hearts.
Oh. My straw was a little more generous with the droplets. I thought they were going to be a little bit smaller.
And then before you go in on this, like what's cool about that is you can smell all the beautiful perfume of the Pisco, but also that faint kick of cinnamon and other things from the bitters. And egg whites don't have much of a flavor, but sometimes they have a little bit of a funny smell, and that just totally takes it away, you know? It's and then I've always said that using an egg white in a cocktail, because of the alcohol and the citrus, was safer than scrambled eggs, was a way I tried to describe it for people, you know, like, a whole egg, thinking of it almost like melted ice cream. Yeah, it's not pasteurized, but it's been treated here in the shaker to more germ killing effects than it sometimes gets on the stove. So
exactly.
Mm.
For a delicious
And it's
cocktail.
funny too. So, well, it's always so interesting. We all kind of have this revolted feeling to the look of an open egg. Visually by itself, it doesn't look that great. So when you're cracking it to go into a drink, people are like, "What is happening?" And but then when it's plated, it's like, "Oh, that looks like a lemon meringue pie or some sort of like pretty finish on a dessert," and that's exactly what it is.
My first egg white cocktail was at Eastern Standard.
You remember what it was?
A gin flip. I'll never forget it.
Yeah, we had a pretty sweet, I mean sweet, lot of sugar gin flip.
Yeah. It was, I loved it. It was like a really nice introduction for me. I had just turned 21, learning about cocktails. It was delicious.
Yeah, that one turns on like that kind of that juniper kick with vanilla, which is always something I don't think people think of goes so well with gin, but it does. And variations on this drink that could be fun to try. It doesn't have to be straight simple syrup. That's really, to me, the place that if you want to do something fresh and seasonal, whip up cook a little bit of strawberries into a syrup, strain that off, and you've got a beautiful strawberry Pisco Sour, huge crowd pleaser.
Passion fruit is a really, really good addition with Pisco. I love passion fruit and Pisco together. It's just so bright and it has this beautiful herbaceous and sweet notes to it.
Yeah, in Lima, there's some Pisco bars that they like to do a lot of infusing, and they have really exotic access to fruit. And it was just a kind of amazing to me for a brandy to take such a variety of stuff. And like plum is really pretty in it. Peaches, I think, are really great. So passion fruit, huge. I haven't done watermelon, but now I'm thinking about trying it.
That sounds fantastic.
Work. Can juice from a can of beans substitute for egg whites?
Aquafaba it works. If you have an egg allergy, you are vegan, it definitely works. I've tried Aquafaba in cocktails because I was trying to do some R&D for vegan friendly foam cocktails. There's also different companies that make a plant-based foams. I know it's like the Feed Brothers Fee Foam. Mrs. Bitterman's also has a plant-based foamer, and those work really well in cocktails also.
I haven't seen those by brand, but I bet whoever figures out how to do that with avocado is probably going to make the best one, or maybe coconut. Like you want something fatty.
Exactly.
In there,
This is delicious. I feel like I would like this with almost like a chai simple syrup, chai spice simple syrup.
Yeah, that'd be great. And it's funny too, it's like an egg white cocktail, but I still feel like this is very pre-dinner. Like I'm ready to move into other things, like in and of itself, it's kind of rich. I'm not thinking of any great food pairings, but I think I'd move on from this to
this beautiful bright acidity to it. It's critical.
So this is a really good question, and it's very simple, but it's actually really deep. Why lemon instead of lime? For me, I thought it should be lime. In Peru, it's lime. But when you travel there and have a lime there, you realize it's very different from the limes that we have. And that our lemon presents in cocktails closer to their lime than our lime does. And this drink is just better this way. And that's the only thing I can say to tell you. We use lemon up here because our lemon is better for this drink than our lime is, I guess, is the simplest way to say it.
I'm curious as to how this would be with yuzu as a citrus aspect to it.
And also, sometimes depending on the situation, if you're blending citrus, lemon and lime together work really well.
Absolutely.
Too. And that's like, you know, in terms of modern sustainability, you know, sometimes it's worth thinking back to, you know, when to an earlier way of approaching things. And when cocktail books when recipes were written down, a lot of them were written lemon or lime because you didn't know if you would have lemon or lime. And like the few orange juice drinks were like exotic, like, oh my God, they're adding a little orange juice. That must be a fancy place, you know? So, you know, sometimes like the modern thing of like, wait a minute, one thing I can do is like not throw away this juice. So if I'm about to make some daiquiris right after this, but I have this juiced lemon, instead of throwing that away, why don't I make a beautiful version of a daiquiri with lemon juice, you know? So
it's always great to use what you have, you know, and that's what I was trying to convey during the lockdown. Is like, look in your cabinets. You can infuse things with different teas or different fruits that you have in your house. Just, you know, use what you have. You can do a lot of things with what's in your pantry or your tea cabinets or even in your fridge.
that's like, exactly. You've got a bag of chamomile tea and you want to have some very special Pisco Sours, like infuse that into your simple syrup and you'll, you know, be the best drink maker on the block. Well, it's been great to spend some time with you, Ashley. Thanks again so much for making drinks.
Of course.
And that's all the time we have for Cocktail Club. We're going to be off next week. Crazy. Look for our summer schedule to be released through Boston.com in the coming days. It has been an honor for me to host season 1 straight through from ringing in the new year till now with you all. Big thanks to the team at Gordon's Wine and Spirits for putting together these kits every week. And a huge thanks to the team behind the scenes at Boston.com, especially Ariana, Madison, Abby, Emily, and Matt. Thank you all for tuning in with us every week. Thank you, Ashley.
Thank you for having me. Cheers.